So I'm minding my business, just like you may have been, and you're just kind of scrolling through your phone, and you're in the middle of a fast, and up pops up somebody making a carrot cake. Now, I pick carrot cake because that's my thing, right? And so you quickly get off that, and then up pops somebody's making some delicious pastry. And you get off of that, and then somebody's showing you how they're making a smoked brisket. And as I'm going through the fast, I'm like, oh my goodness, how did they know that I'm fasting? And why are they trying to sabotage me? Yeah. Does that ever happen to you? Happens to me quite a bit, particularly as I've gone through this new year, new you. And you may have that same thing happening to you. So, how do you stay focused? How do you deal with all the distractions that may come? And I'm just talking about scrolling on my phone, not to mention television, and all the billboards and all the magazines and all the other things that you may see. And that's what we're talking about tonight. Hey, I'm Dr. Dwain Woode. If you're new to me, that's Wood with an E. The E stands for endocrinology. Here on the channel, I educate, I empower, and I encourage you to take charge of your health and your life, avoid complications, and go to the next level. And in this year, new you. I'm talking to adults with type 2 diabetes who want to put their diabetes in remission, who want to reverse their diabetes. Welcome, welcome. Go ahead and put new in the comments because I'd love to welcome you with a hand clap and some music. And let you know that we are happy that you're here. And if you have questions, go ahead and put those in the chat because I'd love to welcome you and answer those questions as well. And you know how we do it here on the show. I've got my meters, I've got my reports that we're going to take a look at. So I've got my sensors that we're going to take a look at over here in just a minute. And then right down below, you'll see my report. There's from my Dexcom Clarity. And then just want to hop over and say hello to some of our community members. I see Steve out there. Steve says hello. Hey, Steve, welcome, man, welcome. And he says, put the phone down. Steve, I try, man. I try. I put it down and I turn it off. Well, I don't turn it off. I turn I put it on vibrate, and invariably something pops up. I go on to check my email. Maybe that's the problem. That I'm going to check my email and I'm checking it frequently. Yeah, maybe that. Yeah, that's a whole nother conversation. All right. Well, welcome. Let's go ahead and let's see. I am 30, it's 31, I think is what I put on. So 32 and a half hours into my fast for this week in our 72-hour fast. As you know, I've been using fasting, and we in the community have been using fasting as one of those tools for putting our diabetes in remission. I'll tell you, I changed the subject that I was going to talk about tonight for this check-in. Initially, I was going to talk about some new data that came out from the CBC, and we'll probably do that maybe tomorrow or on Friday. But this one was present of mind because as I was talking in the office today with patients, I was thinking back to my personal experience during fasting, and not just even during fasting, but just my experience as we went through the New Year, New You process. And I hear this continually that, oh man, I was doing fine until, man, I was 32 hours until. And I said, until what? And it's usually until I saw that commercial, until I saw that burger that they showed, until something. And a big part of what people are running into is what's going on in social media and how that is beginning to affect us. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. But before we do that, let's go ahead and let's take a look at some of my numbers. And I do see Jennifer. Hey, Jennifer. Jennifer saying howdy all. Glad that you are here hanging out with us. And let me do say again, we've been having some technical issues with our stream. If that does cut out, we will go ahead and post this. We'll continue the show and we'll post this a little later. Okay, so once again, still working. I've been on the phone, been in text and chats with the folks who do our streaming, and they are working on it. Right now, we're not quite sure what's causing it, but glad that you guys are hanging in there with us. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's take a look at some of our numbers. And so you'll see here at what did I say, 32, 33 plus hours of fasting, my blood sugar right now is 71, and this is my Libre. And you'll see for most of the afternoon, my blood sugar has been 100 or lower. Okay, 100 or lower. And then let's go ahead and take a look at the Dexcom G7. Now, I had, if you remember, I had a Dexcom G7 and a Stelo on, and I was taking my backpack off, was it yesterday? And the Stelo got ripped off, and so I did not put another one on. But one thing that I am doing is normally I have, let me change my scene for just a minute. Normally I have the Dexcom on one side and the Libre on another, and now I have both of them on one side. So we'll see what these numbers are. And so you'll see there on the screen that the Dexcom right now is saying that my blood sugar is 90, and the Libre said that it was 71. So so about 19-point difference between the two. And if I take a look at the 12-hour mark and just kind of run my finger over the Dexcom, you can see what the numbers have been here going into the last 12 hours or so. So earlier this morning, that's what, right about 10 o'clock, we were in the 130s, 120s, and then as we got further in the day, I bet you right around maybe 3 or 4 o'clock was probably when it dropped below. Actually, yeah, actually it was not until 5 or 6 o'clock that it actually for the first time dropped below 90. I mean below 100, and then it's kind of gone down since then. All right. So that's what these monitors are showing, and then let's take a look at what my meters are doing. So this is a Keto Mojo. Here is the Contour. Let's go ahead and do this. Get a strip out, and I'm gonna be much more careful because last couple times I had to give a finger stick several times to get a drop of blood. I think I did a good job. So over here now I've got my ketone strip and my glucose. All right. So let's go ahead. We'll start with the glucose strip. Get that in. And what I'm going to do this time is I'm going to go ahead and open up the ketone as well, because before I was actually spending time opening that up. I think that's why the blood dried up. So we got that open. We'll keep that off to the side. Got my handy dandy one-use lancing device or lancet. Go ahead and take that off the top. Come over here. And let's see, let's get hopefully a good drop of blood. All right, I think, hopefully you heard that. And then let's see what we got. Oh, no. Okay, come on. I'm gonna let it sit for a minute. All right, so I'm not sure if that's gonna work, y'all. So let's go ahead and rather than try to use that, we're gonna grab another one and move on. Okay, so let's go ahead and grab this, and maybe I'll use my pinky finger. I don't usually use that one, so we'll see. Yeah, there we go. You see that? See how that drop came out quickly? All right, so we got the Keto Mojo going. We got the Contour going, and I'm going to keep this drop. And so 79 is what the Keto Mojo says. 79 for the Contour as well. And then let's go ahead and drop the Keto Strip in. Get that started and see what it is. So what do you think it's going to be? 33 hours, 33 plus hours of fasting. What do you think that's going to be? So I'm going to go ahead and get off that scene. So You guys are going to have to guess. So just drop it in the chat, drop it in the comments, and we'll come back and we'll take a look at that in a minute. All right, so what are we talking about? So let me do this. If you have not already done so, make sure you go back, and on this past Monday, our show was about the difference between coping and buffering, right? So buffering, those things that we do to avoid, to numb, to not feel. And then, of course, coping are the mechanisms that we want to do. So go ahead and make sure you watch that as we get into a new segment in the series of New Year, New You, right? So we did the initial show where we introduced the cope mechanism or the cope paradigm. And then we're going to come back, we're going to talk about the other components or the components individually over the next several shows. So make sure you go back and you watch that. That was this past Monday. All right. And so then let's hop over and let's have our discussion. So I want to start out with a quote from Tony Robbins. And tonight we're going to have a lot of quotes because I think a lot of people are out there and they may not necessarily be talking about fasting and metabolism, but the concepts that they have are so powerful that I think we need to reach out within whatever industry, within whatever space they're in, and pull that in so that we can begin applying them to some of the things that we do, right? So Tony Robbins says, where your focus goes, energy flows. Where your focus goes, energy flows. So let me give that scenario again, okay? So I am, by self-proclamation, and you've heard people say, I'm a foodie. I like food. I do. I admit it. When I have been in the process of dealing with my diabetes and dealing with my weight, the thing that has been the biggest barrier to success for me has been food. Okay? No, let me get rid of something here really quickly. Has been food. And when I say food, it is the place that I have my biggest struggle, because I use food for buffering. Okay? And that was actually the impetus for coming up with the COPE model. Just last night, I had started my fast, and I was in the kitchen. Actually, I came home, and I had a lot of things that are coming up. I've got a lot of programs that have been coming up, and I think I mentioned to you guys that starting Labor Day is when I actually get ready for the next year. And so a lot of things that are going on, a lot of wheels that are turning. And so in my mind, there was all of this, I don't want to say anxiety, but there was all of this anticipation, expectation, maybe a little frustration of some things that weren't working quite the way I wanted. And so I'd been fasting, and so I walked into the kitchen, and I went into the refrigerator, and I started pulling stuff out, right? Putting it on the island. I got some cheese. I didn't have any nuts because those are gone. I've got some chicken. I went into the freezer, and there was some chicken that I had frozen. Got it out, put it in the microwave, warmed it up, and then remembered the cope model that I had done on Monday. So I came in here, I left it, came in here, did some things, and then I went back out, and still this stuff is going through my mind. And I'm putting this stuff together, and my wife says to me, hey, what are you doing? And I said to her, these are the words I said to her. I said, I'm buffering. All right. I said, I'm buffering. I said, I'm not coping. I'm buffering right now. And so she says, why? And so she took a moment and we talked. And I was able to kind of get through that, right? So cope worked. Well, that's fine. And then I came and I sat here and I was working on some more things, and I got on my phone and I scrolled up in Facebook, and boom. By the way, my favorite kind of cake is carrot cake. I said it. I think somebody's listening. So I'm going to see a feed right in a minute that comes up. And as soon as I got on it, guess what this person was making? Yeah, it was like how to make the best carrot cake. And so I sat there and I watched it. And I'm like, oh, that's nice. And so now my brain is in the process and it's making the story and it's creating, oh, wouldn't it be nice? And so I went to work today and I went down to the cafeteria and guess what they had? Carrot cake. And often what happens is that our appetite is stimulated not because we smelled something, not because we are hungry, but it's the sight of something that comes across our feed, that somebody talks about, that is in a magazine, that is in some of our social spaces, and we begin focusing on it. But as Tony Robbins says, what you focus on, that's where your energy goes. So where focus go, energy goes. And so there are several times where I find myself actually having to reprocess, having to do something to avoid the breaking of the fast or avoid the eating if I'm not fasting, right? And you guys know, we're on an eating plan not because I intentionally did something, but something showed up on my feed. Okay? So what's your goal with your fasting? What's your why? And we'll come back to why in a minute, because it's going to be very important to kind of push us through that. So today we're going to reclaim control over distractions, and we're going to talk about how do we stay on track. Okay? We're going to reclaim that. So why do we get distracted? The real reason why we get distracted. Here's another quote from James Clear. People don't lack motivation, they lack clarity. People don't lack motivation, they lack clarity. So digital distractions are engineered to grab our attention. Right? It's kind of like when we talk about the bliss point. The perfect combination of sugar, salt, and fat. It is designed so that when you eat something, it tastes so good, right? You have such great sensations. You get that burst of sugar, that burst of fat, the burst of salt that come together, and they excite the taste buds. And it's designed to give you that pleasure, right? That dopamine burst. And that's the same thing that happens with when we get these attention-grabbing ads, these feeds that come up. Because the goal is really not to help you in your fast. It's really not to help you in your reversing diabetes. It's really not designed to help you in your metabolic health. They are to trigger cravings. Have you ever been sitting there, you're not hungry, and then boom, something comes up and all of a sudden you start thinking about that food? Oh yeah. That's what those food ads are designed to do. They're designed to trigger the craving even when you're not hungry. So these distractions, they steal your focus. They steal your time. Now, I can't tell you the amount of time that sometimes I'll spend just scrolling, right? So I'll catch myself. Okay, I'm not watching the one about the carrot cake, and I'm going somewhere else, and I scroll, and okay, here comes one about cookies. Oh, and here comes one about oatmeal raisin. So carrot cake, oatmeal raisin cookies. That's it right there. Okay, carrot cake, oatmeal raisin cookies. And so it takes the power. It takes the focus. And now I end up spending energy trying to clear my head from the things that I saw. Okay? And that's the design. But remember, you can control your environment. You can control your environment. Les Brown says, you are the master of your fate, the captain of your soul. You are the master of your fate, the captain of your soul. So we can take control. Now, I'll tell you, sometimes I will go to the grocery store, and you guys know what my thing is, right? So nuts, cashews, almonds, da da da. And even now that I'm trying to be better, I actually have created my own version of nuts. So I get a big container and I throw some cashews in there. I throw some almonds in there. I get some pistachios. I get my own walnuts. I got some macadamians, and I put them all together. And the pistachios, I'll do the what's it? The mesquite smoked ones. Anyway, so put them in there. I make my own. So I thought, hey, I'm not gonna just get the plain cashews or plain almonds because I'm gonna eat them. But guess what? Yeah, my taste for nuts has increased because now I eat all of them. Okay. But we can control our environment. We are the master of our fate. Just as you control what you eat, right? Because we're doing that. We're fasting. We can control what we consume online. We can control what comes to us. Now, there are a lot of times that feeds that, the things that come to us, by the way, are the things that we watch. So if you remember, if you're on YouTube, if you're on Instagram, if you're on Facebook, wherever you are, whatever social platform you're on, the things that you watch, those are the things that they give you more of. So sometimes I'm like, well, why does this come up? Well, it came up because, I watched that cake thing. And they're like, well, he likes cakes. Let me give him more cake. And of course, they'll every now and then they'll throw something else in there to see if that captures your attention. And if it does, guess what? You get more of that stuff. So just like we control our appetite, just our eating, we can control what we eat on what we consume online. So there are some things that we have to unfollow. There's some things I took off. Say I'm unfollowing. You can't be part of my who I follow because that is too triggering to me. Okay? So unfollow some things. Create a digital environment that aligns with your fasting journey. You shouldn't be looking up recipes while you're fasting. Like, oh, I need to find a good recipe for X, Y, and Z. No, this is not the time to do that. Because remember, our brain will create the story. So we're not eating now, but oh yeah, when we are able to eat, this is what it's going to taste like. This is what it's going to feel like as it goes down. I'm going to eat it and I'm going to drink some of this stuff, right? So we're creating that environment. We're creating that story that goes along with it. And when we do that, right, we're stimulating that appetite. Because remember, appetite is up here. Hunger is a physical state. It's what the body says, hey, I need energy. But appetite is up in the mind. It's up in the brain. Right? Right. Feed your focus. Starve your distraction. Robin Sharma. Feed your focus. Starve your distraction. So that what that's saying is the more you want to focus on a particular thing, that's what you need to be focusing on. That's what you need to feed. Get into groups. Subscribe to those channels. Read those blogs. Whatever you're focusing on. And don't spend time on the things that you don't want to engage in. So here, guys want to hear a story? Okay, I'm going to tell you a story. So I was on my way home. And there's a little place, a shopping center that I'd never really paid attention to. That was on the road that I was driving. And so I'm nearing home and I saw the lights flashing. So it has one of those neon lights. And I looked at it and the name of the place, and right below it says, it was like, whatever ice cream. Yeah. So my brain says to me, hey, Dwain, that's a new place. We've never looked at that, but we've never been in there before. Let's go see what they have. We're not going to buy anything. We're not going to get any ice cream, but we're just going to see what's in this place that I have not been into before. And so I had actually passed the shopping center, y'all. And I pulled back around and went in, parked, and sat in my car for a minute and said, I don't even need to go in there. Let me just go home. But the other part of my brain said, no, let's just go see. We're grown. We're not gonna eat anything. So I went in there, and it was a nice little place. And the guy said to me, "Hey, do you want to taste anything?" Remember what I went in there for, right? I just went in to look. He said, "Do you want to taste anything?" And I said, "No, no." He said, "Well, we just got in some peach ice cream. Like, I don't eat peach ice cream, but," he said, "Hey, we got some peach ice cream. You should try this. This is really good." And so I said, "Sure." So got some peach ice cream. And y'all, the moment the peach ice cream touched my lips, it was like I lost my mind. Right? Because it was good. It was so good. So I said, "Sure." I said, "Okay, so how much is this?" And I think it was like $4 for 2 scoops. Right? So, hey, yeah, give me 2 scoops. Right? In the little cup. And this guy was good. Right? Of course, I'm blaming him. This guy was good. Because I said, "Hey, yeah, give me 2 scoops." And I went in my pocket to pull out the money or my card. And he said, if you pay an extra $1, then we really pack this thing and you can get a third flavor. Because I think I got like peach and cherry vanilla or something. He said you can get a third flavor and we really pack it in there. And I thought to myself, hey, this is good consumership. So let's go ahead and let's do that. Right? So notice the rabbit hole that I went down. All because I made a decision to change my focus. So feed your focus, starve your distraction. That's what Robin Sharma says. All right, we can control our environment. So when we're talking about how do we improve, right? How do we improve our environment? How do we take control? How do we stay focused? Okay, so you can control your environment. So the power of mindfulness and intentional use. The power of mindfulness and intentional use. So the purpose of the phone is to be a phone, to communicate, to socialize, and all those things. It is not to entice you. Well, it's used to entice you, but that's not your purpose. Clarity comes from action, not from thought. Gary Vaynerchuk. Clarity comes from action, not from thought. Be intentional about your digital habits. I'm going to tell you, it's a place that I need to work on because I'm really not intentional. I have my phone, and I have my phone all day because, I get consults, my answering service calls me, I've got meetings, and people are sending me information. And so in my brain, in my mind, I need this device, and I'm always on it, checking it. Right? Because the answering service will call and say, hey, we just sent you over a consult. Or one of the hospitalists will call and say, hey, I need to talk to you about a patient. Or one of my team members will call me and say, hey, doc, this is what's going on. Right? Or, I'm arranging a meeting. I'm on my phone because sometimes I'm preparing for one of these shows. Right? So there's all this stuff going on my phone. And so I've convinced myself that it's a necessity for me to be there all the time. But I actually don't need to be there all the time. So I need to be intentional about my digital habits. Set up particular times when I'm going to do it, when I'm going to check it, and other times it shouldn't be there. So ask yourself, is this helping me or distracting me? Is this helping me or distracting me? And then if it's not helping, then we have to, okay, what do we do to remove that temptation in our space? Visualize yourself completing the fast. Right? Visualize yourself completing the fast with focus and discipline. So remember we're talking about fasting. Right? So how do we get through the fast? How do we successfully complete the fast? There's this distraction. There's this thing that potentially is pulling us, that's stimulating the appetite. Now, even when sometimes you don't break the fast, this fast becomes more difficult. It becomes more of a challenge. Because there's all this stuff that's pulling at it's tugging at those emotions, right? And here's the thing. Here's the thing that can happen. You may be having some emotional issue that's going on, and you're managing it, right? You're dealing with it. You're mindful, and you're exercising emotional intelligence, and you're going through the COPE model that we talked about. You're connecting, you're observing, you're pausing, and then you're evaluating. You're going through the model. You're going through the process, and you're dealing with it. And it is a struggle to deal with whatever the emotion is, right? But it's manageable. And then boom, here comes the ad. Boom, here comes the song. Boom, here comes the whatever it is that then like pushes you just over the edge. So notice, it may not be the thing in itself that was causing the issue, but just another thing that pushes you that much further along. And you're like, okay, yeah, so we're going to break this fast. Okay. All right. So hunger isn't just physical. It is emotional as well, right? Change happens when the pain of staying the same is greater than the pain of change. That's once again from Tony Robbins. So we make changes when the pain that we feel from staying where we are is greater than the pain for change. Otherwise, we don't make changes. It has to be very intentional. It has to be a big deal. We have to go through a lot to make a change. But when the pain from being here is greater than the pain from making the change and going somewhere else, guess what? That change happens immediately. Almost immediately. People who have not been controlling their blood sugar for years, they have a heart attack. Blood sugars are good. People who have not had good glycemic control, right? So they've had ups and downs. Woman gets pregnant, and guess what? She comes in, blood sugars are perfect. People who've struggled with weight for a long time, have some significant issue go on in their lives, and they start controlling their weight. So the pain of staying is greater than the pain of moving. And so change happens. So a lot of our cravings come from emotional triggers. They come from emotional triggers, not from physical hunger. And so as I mentioned before, with the emotional triggers, right, when those emotions come, those emotions are going to, they're going to move us in a direction that maybe we don't want to go. Because if the emotions get high enough, if they get strong enough, they're pushing through. Just in the office today, we were talking to someone, and we were talking about going on one of the GLPs. And I actually had to say to the patient, I don't think that right now is the right time to put you on a GLP. And the reason was that the emotional things that were going on were so strong that the GLP was not going to be able to blunt the appetite that comes from it. Because remember, when the emotions are strong enough, it doesn't matter what you're on. It's coming through. It's breaking through. So whatever decision you've made, if you get angry enough, you get depressed enough, you get anxious enough, you get lonely enough, tired enough, frustrated enough, whatever it is, it's happening. Not because you're hungry, but because of the strength of those emotions. Okay? So remember, hunger is not just about the physical, it's also an emotional thing. And so what you want to do is you want to acknowledge the emotions, but don't let them control you. So this is the whole idea behind the COPE model that we talked about, right? So that connecting with where you are emotionally, checking in. How are you feeling physically, mentally, emotionally, connecting, being mindful, understanding where you are, understanding what's going on around you and how that's impacting you. Right? Observing where you're feeling it. Right? What part of your body? Naming it. I'm mad. I'm frustrated. I'm anxious. I'm bored. Right? Putting a name to that. And then pausing, giving yourself a moment, allowing the brain to now have the option of making a different decision. Right? So acknowledge the emotion and that you are in control and the emotion is not in control. Yeah, that scroll, you can change that. You can move away from that. You can turn off the phone. You can get off the computer. You can change the channel. Right? So what are some strategies to reclaim your focus as we move through fasting, right? And once again, we're talking here about social media, but this can apply to anything. Discipline, says Jacob Willink. Discipline equals freedom. When you're disciplined, it allows you to make choices that you would succumb to or get out of a situation that you would succumb to if you weren't disciplined. So discipline equals focus. It gives you more time when you're disciplined. Because now everything is not just haywire. It gives you more space in your house when you're disciplined. Because everything is just not thrown everywhere. When you're disciplined, you have better relationships. When you're disciplined, you can have better growth in your career. When you're disciplined, you can save more money. When you're disciplined, and notice what I'm saying, we're taking discipline and we're going into other areas. So discipline. Within this space, though, discipline allows you to get better blood sugars. Discipline allows you to lose weight. Discipline allows you to get off of medication. Discipline allows you to reverse your diabetes. Discipline allows you to deal with metabolic health. So how do we get discipline? Unfollow or mute food-related content. There's no reason for you to watch it, except that it stimulates the appetite. Set screen limits. Right? Some of the social media platforms have a time. You can set time limits. So avoid mindless scrolling. That's it, mindless scrolling. Not intentional scrolling where you're looking for something, but the mindless scrolling that we do. Fill your feed with health, fasting, and wellness content. You can do that. Right? You can make those changes. And then a mindset shift. Remember, you are in control. You are in control. Eric Thomas says, you have the power to say, this is not how my story ends. My story doesn't end with me breaking the fast or getting off the fast early. My story doesn't end with me being stimulated so much that I go and I get the ice cream. My story doesn't end with me looking and seeing my weight go back up. My story doesn't end with my blood sugars spiking when I don't want them to spike. My story doesn't end like this. This is not how my story ends. You control your mind. You control your actions. You control your digital feeds. Every time you resist distraction, you're building strength. Every time you resist the urge to scroll again and to get that appetite stimulated, you're building strength. Remember that. You are in control. And then we want to reaffirm our why. Reaffirm our why. Simon Sinek says, if you don't know why you're doing something, how can you expect to stick to it or stick with it? If you don't understand why you're doing something, how are you going to stick to it? What gives you the drive? What gives you the power? What puts the wind within your sails? So re-examine your why. Often. Have it plastered somewhere. Have it pasted somewhere. Put it up on the wall. Remember your why, your health, clarity and power. Your why. That gives you clarity. Why for my health? Why am I doing this? And it gives you the power. The goal is bigger than a momentary distraction. That moment that you see that thing that then stimulates you, so you get up and you go to the kitchen or you break the fast, that moment is much, much smaller than the why that you said that you have. The why you're doing something is big. The why has to be big because it has to support all this other stuff that goes on. The distractions, the depression, the fatigue. Your why. And so the question is, now what? Now what? So act now. The future is not promised, Damon John says. So don't say, okay, I'm going to go handle my social media tomorrow. No. Act right now. Take action today. Review your digital environment and set boundaries. Right? So I've got some things I'm going to be doing here on my phone. You control your feed. You control your focus. You control your future, says Jia Jiang. Remember, you are in control. So how do we deal with, how do we stay focused? How do we deal with all the things that come up when we're fasting, all the things that can derail us? That's it right there. That's it right there. Awesome, awesome. All right, so let's see what we got. We've got some folks that are out there. Let's see. So we said Steve did say put down the phone. Sandy Toes, he said, any suggestion, on how to overcome the temptation when I still have to prepare the food for my family when they aren't fasting, but I wish okay. So how do you resist the temptation when you have to prepare food for the family, they're not fasting, you want to fast? Very good question. I'm going to hold on to that one for just a second because I've got some things I want to say there. Okay, so we'll come back to that. Sandy Ties. Steve says, Sandy, try cooking with a few days of. He says, try cooking for a few days or a week at a time. My wife and I use this method. And Steve, thank you. I guess I should have read that before I said I was going to hold on to it. Sandy says, thanks, Steve. I'm going to come back to you, Sandy. That's a good idea for me. And then Steve says, ketones are 1.4 tonight. Yep. So Sandy, let me come back to that question. So basically the question is, how do I resist the temptation when I want to fast, but the family is not fasting, and I still need to make food? I need to cook for the family. And so Steve gave a great suggestion there, which is where you are cooking in batches. Okay? So we did a show several months ago, where we talked about batch cooking. And that's a great idea because the temptation often is in the smell. The temptation often is in the activity that goes around cooking. Right? So if you like food, if you like to cook, if you're a good cook, right? Even though you're not tasting, your brain remembers what it's like as you're cooking and you're tasting. Oh yeah, let me put a little bit more salt in there, right? That whole process, the brain remembers that. And so as you're doing it, some of that can be triggering. It can enhance the appetite. The smells themselves being in the kitchen, right, will push you in that direction. So batching it allows you to make it at some point where you're not fasting, and then at this point it's just a warming up. Okay? And the warming up may simply be having someone else warm it up as well, right? So it doesn't have to be necessarily you, right? Depending on your family situation. So you're not in there actively cooking, so that's one thing. And then when we're warming up, it's a simpler process. Now, you still have the smells, okay? The other thing is, as you are fasting, if you're doing like an intermittent fasting, try to set your fasting up in a way or on a schedule where you are cooking during your eating windows. So if you're doing like a 16-8, right? Fasting for 16 hours, eating for 8 hours, then your cooking should be done in the 8 hours when you're going to be eating anyway. Right? So notice what we did. We kind of switched it around. Sometimes what happens is we're starting a fast or we're in a fast when we're trying to cook. So if you're doing an intermittent fasting, that makes it simpler to do. Okay. Some of the other fasting methods, not that they can't be done, but it's a little bit more challenging. Okay. So batch cook it, warm it up, let somebody else do it. Set your fasting window up so that you're not trying to cook during a fasting time, but you're cooking during an eating window. The other thing is, and here's one, get someone else in the family to cook when you're fasting. Say to mom, dad, cousin, uncle, sister, brother, whoever, say, hey, on Tuesdays I fast for 24 hours. Do you mind on Tuesdays? Hey, can you cook? Right? Because remember, it takes a community. It takes us all to be able to do and to make ourselves successful. So reach out to people. Okay? Say, hey, maybe the day that you're fasting, maybe a day when you guys are eating things that don't require a lot of preparation. Like we do haystacks here at home. We do taco. Taco is Taco Tuesday. Right? So minimal preparation, particularly if we've prepared some of the ingredients before. So we're not in there, cutting up chicken and seasoning it or grilling meat and all the things that go along with cooking. We're not doing that during that time. We're just kind of putting it together. Okay? So those are some ideas, Sandy, but very, very good question. And Steve, thank you for jumping in there and adding to that. Let's see. Sandy said, "I never thought of it with that perspective. I can see it all working now." Ah, I love that. Love that. And so Sandy, thank you for saying that. I think I wanna hop on that for just a minute. And what I want to say is that is the beauty of community. Okay, I can't tell you the number of times that I have been in a situation where I'm thinking a particular thing and I can't see outside of that box. And someone in the community or in my communities will say, "Hey, why don't you try this? Or have you thought about that?" And it's almost like a light bulb goes off and I'm like, "Why didn't I think of that?" Right? But sometimes we're focused. And so the community, so once again, Steve, thank you for putting that in there. All right. So let's hop over and let's take a look at some reports. Let's see. Where do I go? We're going to come back to this guy in just a minute. But let's take a look at my report and let's hop over. Let's do this one. And you'll see there my average blood sugar over the last 14 days has been 131. I'm in target 91% of the time. That target being between 70 and 180. And my glucose management indicator is a 6.4. That's for the last 14 days. If I change that to 90 days, we'll see what that comes up in just a minute. So average blood sugar is 134. I'm in target 86% of the time. Target is still the same, 70, 180. And my glucose management indicator is 6.5. So if I were to get an A1C, it would approximate a 6.5. Remember, the glucose management indicator is a surrogate for blood sugars or for A1C. Okay, and then let's go ahead and let's take a look at my daily graph, and let's see what that is showing. And so let's go back here. So we started fasting right here yesterday. Actually, no, we started fasting right after lunch. Sorry, 1 o'clock. So right after lunch. And so you saw we had lunch here, and what you're seeing, these spikes are the result of lunch. And what I had there was a salad, a pretty big salad, but it was a salad. And you'll see the spike there. And then the blood sugar started coming back down. And then, of course, today at 1 o'clock was 24 hours. And then by 9 o'clock, 34 hours, or 10 o'clock, 34 hours. And right now we're 90 in terms of our blood sugar. Now you'll notice something on the graph, and let me go back to this one. You'll see down here that we have two graphs, two lines on the graph. One is the Stello, the bottom one, and the other one is the Dexcom G7. And then on this graph today, you'll see that that's gone, and that's because, as I mentioned, the Stello, which was on this arm, got ripped out because I was taking off a backpack. Okay, and so that got pulled out, and there it is. All right. What else? Oh yeah, let's hop over and let's take a look at what my ketones are going to be. Now, Steve, were you saying that your ketones were 1.4? I think that's what you're saying. Okay. Now, if you think you know what my ketones are, anybody out there, go ahead and pop those in. And I'm going to go ahead and take this out. And then I'll need to get my Keto Mojo app up. Let's go back here. So Keto Mojo app, and turn on the meter. And then we'll get it synced. Let's see, there we are. So that should come up in just a minute. What do you think it's going to be? Put it in the chat. Put it in the chat. Okay, so Steve said yes, that he was saying that that his ketones were. So let's see. So he says 1.4 for him, and so now I'm how many hours did I say? 34 plus hours. And so my blood sugar was 79, and my ketones are 1.1. Oh, look at that, Steve, right behind you. So 1.1 is where I am. When we talk about ketones, and I guess let's look at the graph first. And so you'll see there on the screen that the turquoise line, those are ketones, and then the tan line, those are blood sugars. So as my blood sugar has gone up over the course of time when I wasn't fasting, because to the far left, I was fasting, so the blood sugars were low and the ketones were high. And so as I started eating, the blood sugar went up, the tan line's getting higher, and the ketones, the turquoise line's getting lower and lower, to the point where the ketones dropped down to, I think it was 0 down here. Yeah, 0.00. And then as I started fasting again, notice that the blood sugars, the tan line is going down, and then the ketones are going up. So as blood sugars rise, insulin has to rise to deal with it. Your body produces insulin, or you have to take insulin to keep those blood sugars under control. And as the insulin goes up, ketones go away, because remember, ketones and insulin cannot exist in the same space. So as blood sugars rise, insulin goes up, ketones have to go away. And then as I start fasting, blood sugars are dropping, insulin is dropping, and then ketones now are starting to rise. So that's the first concept I want you to get. And then as we're fasting, we are working on getting into ketosis. That's the whole idea behind fasting, right? So we're trying to get into the fat burning phase. And we'll go through more of this as we do our review on Friday. But in terms of ketones, we want ketones to be between 0.5 above 0.5. Below 0.5 is considered normal. 0.5 to 1.5 is considered nutritional ketosis, and then above that is considered therapeutic ketosis. And so we want blood sugars to be, or we want ketones to be above 0.5 so that we're in ketosis. That means that we are burning fat. We're burning this stuff right here. Yeah, that's being taken away. All right. Make sure that so that want to make sure that you understand that. Awesome, awesome. Let's see what else. So in the fasting process, there are a lot of benefits that we have from fasting. And one of the reasons that we are fasting, and I think I'm going to go ahead and do it anyway. I think I told you I was doing something for about the CDC, CDC obesity data that's out. And one of the reasons for doing what we do is because the data says, and I'm gonna pull this up really quick. The data says that we are having a hard time, y'all. We're having a hard time dealing with metabolic disease. I'm gonna pull this up because I want you guys to see the see, where is it? There it is. I want you guys to see some of this information. If I can find it. Okay, I may just go to the website. There we go. Let's do that. Come on, come on, come on. So let's grab this one. Okay, so the overall obesity map, right? So this is the CDC map, and this is in 2023, so just last year. More than 1 in 5 adults in the United States had obesity. 1 in 5. And that number is going up, is getting higher and higher. Now, when we started, and what I wanted to show you was really the starting graph. And I don't have that. But the darker the colors that you're seeing, the higher the amount of obesity that exists. So if those graphs were like yellow, right, or some of the places where it's light, like in Colorado, Minnesota, North Dakota, Georgia, South Carolina, Virginia, Maine, so those lighter colors, that's less obesity. But as we get darker and darker and darker, you'll see that the obesity rates go up. And you'll see down here on the side, right in this area, it gives you the legend, right? So this dark color right here, this darkest maroon, that is 45%. So look at places like Wyoming, Oklahoma, Illinois, Indiana, Mississippi, what's that? New Hampshire, right? Look at those colors. Those are the darkest colors. But the rest of the country, I mean, it's following suit, right? Because the next one down is 40, and then below that is 35, right? So 35%. So most of the country, right? So if I'm going through it, I'm just highlighting this stuff. Most of the country is in that 35%. That's 35% of the people in the country that are that have obesity, that struggle with obesity. And we'll come back and we'll, like I said, this was the conversation I was gonna have tonight, and we'll come back and we'll do more of that. But one of the reasons why we do what we do, one of the reasons for New Year, New You, is what you see on this graph or on this chart, this map. That is huge, and it's getting more and more and more and more. And the complications are just rising, right? Remember those complications, those things that we talk about. So hypertension, hyperlipidemia, coronary artery disease, obesity, polycystic ovarian syndrome, non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, metabolic syndrome, and on and on and on and on and on. And so how do we improve that? We have to improve it by attacking the source, the metabolic disease. And that is where New Year, New You comes in. New Year, New You. right? Setting ourselves up for success in reversing our diabetes and dealing with other disease processes that are in the metabolic spectrum. Remember, obesity is in the metabolic spectrum, like everything else. Diabetes is the prototypic metabolic disease. If we can do that, if we can treat that, then we can deal with a lot of these other things. Right? All right. So, y'all, so that says then that we can make changes, we can make decisions at our fingertips, everybody. At our fingertips, we have unlimited potential to make improvement. We have unlimited ability to chart the course of our metabolic health. We have unlimited potential that we've got to tap into, and we tap into that by the Triple E formula for success. We educate, we empower, and we encourage. We educate with the shows, with the blogs, with the podcasts. All the things that we're doing is with the idea of providing a mindset shift, a change to say, hey, I have a growth mindset. I can be different. I can make changes. I'm not stuck where I am. That's the point of education. We empower with the tools that we learn, right? Visualization, the COPE model, the HEAT model, emotional intelligence, mindfulness, how to cook, how to create a meal. We empower with that. And then we encourage with the community, just like you saw here just on the show. Perfect example of interaction between community members that sheds light for all of us on places where we can improve, places that we can have success. Remember, the HEAT model says that, hey, you are being pushed at times by triggers, and the triggers are given by the HEAT model: habits, emotions, access, and taste. We eat not because we're hungry necessarily, but we eat because of habits, the routines that we formed. The times when we go to the movies and we eat just because that's what you do at the movies. You get together with friends and you eat. You drink coffee and you eat a muffin. It's 2:00 in the afternoon. You guys go out you go bowling, right? And hey, we bowl and then we eat. The routine. We eat because of emotions. We're hungry. We're angry. We're lonely. We're tired. We're bored. We're frustrated. All those things. When those emotions get strong enough, they're pushing through the desire and the decisions you made. We eat because of access, because things are just around us. And then we eat because of taste. And this ties right into the whole idea of social media, right? The perfect combination of salt, sugar, and fat. The bliss point where you just can't eat one. And so now we're being triggered by those visuals that come across our feeds. Those visuals that come in our email. Those visuals that are in the magazines. The visuals that are on TV. And we can take charge. We can take charge of that. When you show up, join the challenges. Don't just let them be things that happen in the show that you put on the shelf. Join the challenges, because this is where you get to apply the things that we're learning. All the material that's going on, you get to apply it by working through the challenges. Tell your story. So claim your seat. Say, I'm here. Say, I'm fasting. Like Steve says, his ketones were 1.4. I love it. Right? What successes have you had? What places are you seeing improvement? Your A1C, your weight, getting off of blood pressure medicine. All of those things are successes. When you share them, we can come alongside and we can celebrate with you. And we know that, hey, we can do it. If you can do it, we can do it. And if you're having challenges, let us know those as well. Because we can support you, and we know that you know that you're not alone, and we know that we're not alone. And then invite a friend. There are over 1 billion people on the planet with diabetes or pre-diabetes. You can be a voice of change in your community, in your home, in your family, on your job, at your church, in your community center, wherever you are. You can say, hey, there's a place where you can go and get information on how you can reverse your diabetes, how you can improve your metabolic health, right here. And don't just point people to it. Come with them. Say, hey, let's go watch that video together. Let's do this challenge together. Right? We have some challenges that are coming up that we are working on. So you'll see all of those out there. But get out there. The playlists are amazing. right? Mastering diabetes, how to reverse diabetes, how to fast successfully, fasting for the beginner. All of those are out on the channel, on the YouTube channel. So make sure you get out there and make sure you watch those. And then our reversing diabetes, remember our pillars are decreasing insulin, we suppress the appetite, and we reduce sugar. Decrease insulin, suppress appetite, reduce sugar. Hey, hey, hey. I'm always glad when I get a chance to spend time with you all in this space, my community, because it is very exciting for me to see the benefits that you guys are getting, the benefit I'm getting from being in this space with you, improvement in my blood sugar, in my weight. You know, I have to, as I say, I'm working on this part right here. I'm working on this 6-pack, this 1-pack, right there. And so all of that is stuff that we do in the space, in the community. I'm excited to be here with you. As always, this is Dr. Dwain Woode. That's Wood with an E. The E stands for endocrinology. Here on the channel, I educate, I empower, and I encourage you to take charge of your health and your life, avoid complications, and go to the next level. And in this year, new you. We'll see you tomorrow at our check-in, Friday at our check-in. We'll see you at Saturday night for videos from the vault. And then Sunday morning, we'll see you again for This Week in Review. And of course, for our Dwain Woode MD Live on Monday at 7 p.m. Central. Thank you. Have a great evening, everybody. Good night.